As your district director, I hope you can hear me. For years, Paul has tried to get me to buy hearing aids. Well, I finally decided to get some hearing aids, and now people say I don't talk as loud as I used to. Can y'all hear me back there? Okay. A couple things. We're so thrilled that you invited us down here, Baxter. And I want to extend a thank you to the Houston Rose Society, in particular for how you stood up and helped us pull off the Tyler National Show. I know I can see several of you, but I know Earl. I communicate with him a lot. He pulled the trailer down there, and y'all supplied all the bases and everything, and that thing came off unbelievably well. When you consider there wasn't a Rose Society within 200 miles of Tyler. And yet we wound up with a national show at Tyler, Texas. And it went very, very well. I want to thank you for that. I want you to know, before I get started on my program here, how long I got, Baxter?
1 hour.
1 hour, okay. I got till 9 o'clock. Over the years, I have at times, believe it or not, been critical of some of the things that the American Rose Society does. However, let me tell you, our local societies and the American Rose Society are either going to stand together or we're going to do what?
Hang separately.
You need each other, is what it amounts to. And so I want you to encourage you. I want to encourage you, if you're not a member of the ARS, you need to join. We need you. And I want to say something that actually goes along a little bit. I want to use an illustration, is what I want to do here. I taught mathematics for 41 years, everything from 6th grade arithmetic to advanced calculus. Now the last number of years was always, the last bunch of years were in college. And so I'm going to give you an illustration. I wish we had a blackboard. I'd love to have a blackboard, but I don't have it. So I want you to picture in your mind, we're looking at a rose plant. Not the rose, the plant. In particular, we're going to look at a Fortuniana rose plant, since that's what we're talking about tonight. Now, what a Fortuniana rose plant is a rose that from this bud union down is on a rootstock called Fortuniana. And what makes this bush, or these bushes, so productive is the feeder roots. Now, coming out of that main trunk, you typically don't have, by the way, and I'm getting into my talk, but this is something else. It's supposed to be motivational, whatever that means. Typically, you do not have a taproot on it, but you will have a number of larger roots coming off of it. And what makes this thing so productive is that on each of those roots, there will be any number, hundreds of little hair-like roots. Now, above that bud union, of course, you go up there, and I'll mention this in my talk too, and you have the bush itself. Now, I'm going to tell you, in growing roses, it's what happens below that bud union or in the ground that counts. It's not what's up there above yet. What's up here above generally is going to maybe, other than the bug. By the way, you can get rid of all your bugs. You know what? Huh? Surely. Use Roundup. You won't have any more bug problems. And you won't have any more spider mites or anything like it. If you put Roundup on there, you will not have to worry about those things anymore, okay? But here's the analogy. I want to look at the comparison of a Fortuniana rose bush and the American Rose Society. Okay? This up here, that is the American Rose Society. What's it going to do if it doesn't have any roots? What's the plant going to do if it doesn't have any roots? It's going to die. Now, the analogy is those larger roots coming down, I'm going to say, are our districts, like the South Central District. And those little feeder roots, who's that? The local societies. And if you dig up, I dug up a couple the other day. I planted about 18 or 20 bushes this week. Some I just gave up on, and some were dead. Not many. But you dig up a dead one, and typically it's not going to have any root on it. That's what's wrong with it. Now, if the American Rose Society doesn't have any roots out here and feeder roots, what's going to happen to it? Exactly what's been happening to it. It's fallen from about, how many at one time? 24,000? Yes. Down to barely below 8,000. But it has, in that fall, the curve kind of has flattened out. Now, are you going to agree with everything they do? Heck no. You're not. But they still need your support. Well, that's enough of that. I'm promoting it. And I guess we better get on with the program. So, Baxter, do I have to point this thing at the...
You can.
Huh?
No, if you want to. You know,
Will it work if I point it up here?
You gotta push that little button.
Let me make sure I got it on. Then you got it on.
It's a top one.
Top.
No. Hang on.
I thought you did this around here. That's it.
Technology.
And right and left, okay.
Yeah, if it works.
I get dried out. So here we go. This is a picture of our dear friend. By the way, I do want to also say thank you for hosting the district in the fall. And we will bring roses, and this lady will bring roses. And this is her garden. I have a lot against this lady. She has cost me a lot of money. Because even though I didn't get into, I think he said, I don't even remember now, 1997 or something. Paula started going with her in about 88. And Paula was her, quote, sidekick. She went with her for 2 years and didn't enter a rose. And then Carol talked her into entering roses. Won a rose at her queen at her first show, second show, with Bride's Green. And this is Carol's yard. If you want a good speaker sometime, have her come down. Background information. Most modern roses are either grafted or budded onto some rootstock because they just don't have a vigorous enough root system. Now, let me put a qualifier in there. Some roses grow better on their own root. You have to take care of that. Most common rootstocks are Multiflora, Huey, Manetti, and Fortuniana. Fortuniana itself is a white, old garden rose, which is a natural hybrid of the Lady Banks rose and the Cherokee rose. And the Lady Banks rose looks like this. Okay? And the Cherokee rose looks like this. So it's a combination, it's a hybrid between those two. And this here is not a good picture. Can you tell that? Because I'm not, at the time I was not a good photographer, still not very good. But this is a pine tree in my yard. This is a Fortuniana rose. And it has grown now. What happened, Paula used to diddle in hybridizing and also into grafting, budding. And so we had some pots of that stuff. We sat down on the hill down there. I live on the side of a hill. You'd think I couldn't even grow roses where I live. And that thing now goes up about 35 to 40 feet in the air. And it is now also moved over to another tree she was pointing out just this week. Do I have a picture of the... on the other side of it is what the yellow, which is the Lady Bank... Is it Banksia or Banks?
Yeah, thanks.
I don't know.
Yeah. Yellow.
All right. I didn't do this thing the way I meant to. I usually don't put but one thing up there at a time. You know why? If I'm talking about the first and you're looking at the what?
Third one.
Third one. That's not as good. I just don't usually do this, but I did. Fortuniana was discovered in China in 1850 by Robert Fortune, a Scottish gardener. I believe that it came to America in about 1903. Dr. Samuel McCadden of the University of Florida began grafting onto Fortuniana rootstock in the early 1960s. They're budded or grafted. That's what a Fortuniana rose is on that rootstock. Dr. Huey rootstocks are woody with fine feeder roots, and I wish I had a better picture on this next one. Okay? That is a what? Huey. Fortuniana have few woody stalks with numerous feeder roots. So you don't see a taproot down there. You see all these feeder roots out here. Actually, this is not the best picture in the world because what? I've got a pointer on this thing. Where is it? Baxter's got all these fancy things.
Right in the middle.
The middle.
Oh, the middle. These here usually will have just hair-like features along. And so this here is kind of typical of it, of the Fortuniana rootstock. There's a comparison of the two. See the difference in the Dr. Huey and the Fortuniana. This looks like me back when I had hair, I think. It's better suited for sandy soil, rift with nematodes and eelworms. This was very instrumental in its introduction into Florida. That's where it started in this country. And there is what a nematode. I've never seen one. Have you? Have you seen a nematode? You've seen them. Okay. And this over here is an eelworm. The advantage of it, better suited for the sandy soil, more resistant to gall, stem dieback, and root system, healthier rootstock, create larger bushes and larger blooms. Now, the reason we have so many Louis Estes, Baxter is, I'm down to 15 Louis Estes plants, and old Big Lou, our old Big Louis Estes that we've won so many, had so many ribbons off of, she's about to bite the dust, and so I'll be down to 14. Now when you got 14 of these things, and typically they will grow up to 8 to 10 feet tall. So, when you're going to exhibit, there are times when you just have to let the bloom grow, and then you decide when maybe it's ready, and you cut it and hope it has a center. And if it doesn't, it depends on how much time you got. You either throw it on the ground or you throw it in a bucket to give away as bouquets. I distribute across town in one growing season, which is not near as long as yours done, in the vicinity of 80 bouquets a year. That would be 15 to 18 roses in a bouquet. Mainly, I take them to doctors' offices and people that do things for us. And I'm going to tell you, you can take a bouquet of roses into someone, particularly a lady, and I don't care if they had chili strips on them. They think they are beautiful. And when I take these in to my nurses, when I go to the doctor, I get a big hug and a smile and everything. They are so nice, man. So you need to start doing this. And I remember one day I went out and cut. I wish I had that picture in here. I don't think I do. And I delivered 10 bouquets that day to different people. This is our garden. The light's kind of bright on it there. But you can see the height of the bushes. Notice this pole here is probably an 8-foot pole here. And as the fact that it has no tap roots, they must be supported. You have to support them or they're going to wind up, when you have some of these winds coming in off the Gulf here, and we have them all the way from the southwest, they're going to be laying on the ground. So they'll just lay over. Let me see where I am. Here we go. See some advantages. Did I go forward? No.
Yes.
More blooms. Casio double the blooms of Dr. Huey and triple that of multiflora. Now, I don't get near the blooms that Ralph Cooper does. Some of you know Ralph. He's our major competition. We have the strangest relationship. It's young, but either one of us do anything to help the other to get the roses in. And he's in wide open sunshine. I carved my garden out of pine trees on a hillside. And he gets more blooms per bush than I do. They can live for decades. Bushes can live for decades as opposed to a few years. Some have been known to be 4 years old. Now, let's talk about growing. And many of the growing processes, the things you're going to do to the bush to make it grow, are no different than others. There are a few differences. Let's see what we got here. This is a sidewalk through our garden, obviously, when it's in bloom. That's probably what our yard will look like in about, 3 weeks, 4 weeks. We don't have hardly any blooms right now. I grow everything in a raised bed, anywhere from 8 inches to 16 inches. This is not essential, but the hillside I live on is nothing but clay and rocks, plus the fact that it's about like this, about like that, maybe a 15 or 20 degree. So, by raising the beds, and the fact that the Fortuniana rootstock does not grow deep, okay, I haul in everything I grow it in, the growing medium, which I'll talk about a little bit later, which is very important. Why move the stuff in? Why have raised beds? You have complete control over the soil. I'm going to tell you, one of the biggest mistakes that people have in trying to grow roses is planting it something in soil that there's no way it's going to grow. I have gone, we had a couple in church last year called us over to go look at what's wrong with their roses. I took my little rototiller. I got a little steel rototiller. I use that to plant my roses. And when I dig the hole, that's what I use. And when I dig to take the shovel and pull that stuff out, it is very, very fine. And I'll show you what it is in a little bit. I set that thing on that ground, started it, pulled the gas, and it jumped straight up there. It was solid clay. I said right there, I said, there's no way. I remember one time I dug a hole up on the side of my hill, and I had to actually use an axe to cut the clay. I finally got a hole about this big. I was going to plant an old GR or something. I have to be careful when I talk about these different. Is this mine? All right.
Yes, sir.
I got that thing finally about roughly 2 feet deep, and I said, I'm going to test this. I filled it full of water. I went out there the next day, and it was still full of water. You're not going to grow a rose bush of any kind. I don't care whether it's Fortuniana or what it is. You gotta have a good growing medium. Next one, they provide for better drainage. I wish I'd taken a picture the other day. I had got through with my first round of meals, and I had flooded the beds like you flood a rice field. Now, you down here in this part of the country, you ought to know what that means. When I do, the water comes out under the bottom of my borders that I did have out of landscape timber. Now I use these landscape blocks because the timber's going to rot on you. Okay? They were less bendy if that thing is it. And by the way, this is an important thing for me anymore. I don't have to bend over. All right. Yeah, see me there? Yeah. This is Misty, sweet little cat, and she's helping me out. Now, you can see how I built these beds up out of these landscaping blocks. And you can see how the height of those bushes. And it's so nice. See, this one's about 3 high. And so I can work on the bush. That is me, in case y'all don't recognize it. That's not my hired gardener. That's me. That I can work on at least the bottom part of the bush without getting down. Now let's talk about soil. Generally, natural soil is available is not conducive to growing roses. In other words, I'm going to tell you, I don't know down here, do you have old black dirt or what? Huh? Clay? You got there and dig a hole? Why would you dig what we call a 50-cent hole to plant a $25 bush in? That just doesn't make sense. So you got to start out right. And we're going to use some kind of soil. They prefer a sandy loam. Now, I'm going to my CR man. What's it say? I don't know. I think it says 60-20-20, which means it's supposed to be what? 60% sand, 60% silt, and 20% silt and 20% clay. How many of you ever sat down and took a mixture and made it 60-20-20? No one. Okay? No one. However, many wood facilities, and surely you have those down here. We do. That's one thing we got in Arkansas. And nurseries or landscaping services have products available which make a wonderful growing medium. Now, got a lot of pine trees, don't you? You think you could grow a rose in nothing but pine? The product I'm most familiar with is made out of nothing but the finest of the pine bark mulch. There's a facility, a little facility over about 8 miles from me. They bring in, well, like right down the road from it is where they process the timbers. But they bring the bark, etc., into this facility, okay? And they run it up a conveyor belt, and it goes across, and what's going to fall out first? The finest stuff. It'll be almost pitch black, by the way. Next will be, if you go to Lowe's, what do they call that?
Crushed bark.
Huh?
Crushed.
Crushed? No, the second one is called pine bark mulch, I think. I don't know.
No.
Then there'll be a third one where the chunks are about like this. And then you go to the ones that they'll call them nuggets. And they fall out. One year I told Paula, I said, you know, I'm having to replenish this stuff I'm putting in here. If I use those larger pieces, I won't have to replenish them. And I was right. And to this day, and that's probably been 15 years ago, every now and then I dig up one of those chunks, which means it hasn't decomposed, it hasn't done a thing. In many places it's referred to as growers base, soil conditioner, super soil, or perhaps some other name. Now when you go to a nursery and find this, it'll look black in a bin. And I'm sure you got it in there. They will have mixed something with it. Generally sand. I don't like that because it causes it to pack. Sand is not supposed to pack, but I'm going to tell you, you go down the river somewhere where the water is washed for years and years, and you can walk on that stuff, it's like concrete. And it's going to do the same thing in your garden. I prefer this with no additives, nothing added to it.
So you don't put sand at all in
No.
any soil mix ever?
No, none whatsoever. It's lightweight, easy to handle, has a unique quality. This is interesting. Remains damp without actually holding water like a sponge. You can take a sponge and you can dip it into a sink or a bucket or tub or something until it is soaking wet. Pick it up, squeeze all that excess water out, and what's happening when I water my roses, it will go down and open the sponge up. The water is not standing there, but the sponge is still what? Wet. Roses do not and will not tolerate standing in water. If you stand them in water, they're going to drown. I can tell you by experience. One of the best features is this, the pH. When you take the pH of it, I took it in the trailer when I brought it from home, from the place, and it'll be in the 6.8 to 6.9 range. Now we're going to talk a lot about feeding a little bit on.
30 minutes.
But if I don't get anything else across to you, I don't care how good of fertilizers you've got, how good of feeds you've got, what you've got. Doesn't make any difference. If you don't have the pH right in your soil, you are not going to grow good roses. How many of you have a pH meter? If you don't have one, borrow one. And measure your pH and see where it is. I don't know what does it run in this area typically, high or low? High. Okay. Which means you need to add what? Sulfur. All right. Moving on. This is a load of that material I was telling you about. That's a 2-yard load. I probably get 3 when I order 2. I go over there and pick it up. That'll cost me about $90. Now, if you bought that in a sack at Lowe's or anything comparable to it, I don't know what it would cost. And there it is with the meter in. You can't hardly read it, but it's sitting right over here on the, right at 7 on that particular Lowe's. Not a very good picture. I think Paul took it. All right, now what is pH? Here is the definition. It's remember I taught mathematics. It's minus the decimal logarithm of the hydrogen ion activity in a solution. You understand that? Huh? Yeah, that's perfectly clear, isn't it? Well, let's see. How about this? It's the measure of acidity or basicity of a solution. Or it's a measure of whether it's what? Acid or alkaline. Or what's alkaline mean? Starts with an S. Salt. By the way, I forgot to tell y'all about our friends back here that we brought with us. He is definitely not a recruit for your society. Okay? He cannot even pull weeds. His wife loves to do a little gardening, and he just, well, that's a different story. How many of you have had friends and have friends now that you've known for 70 years? He and I went to 6th grade together, and through college, through our first couple of years of married life, so that our wives know each other as well as we know each other. And we went for about 30, 35 years, and we kind of lost contact. And we have reestablished that in the last 10 or 12 years or so, maybe 15. We try to see each other a couple times a year. And so when I got the invite down here, I asked them, of course I knew. And this is Ronnie and Liz Ball. And they live about as far from here as you can get and still be in Houston. Although they don't live in Houston, they live across the street where the city limits is. So you want to check the pH. 7 is neutral. Greater than 7 is alkaline. Less than 7 is acidic. 6.2 to 6.8, I think that's what the CR manual uses as an interval that's acceptable, growing roses. But the truth of the matter, anything I'd say between 6 and 7 is okay. Typically, if we have any problem in our part of the country, it'll be low pH. And what do you do if the pH is low? Lime. Okay, lime. Typically, there's a couple kinds. We use dolomite. It can be raised by adding the limestone. It doesn't guarantee that you got the not right nutrients in your garden, in your soil. But it does what? The importance of it is it provides for the maximum availability of the nutrients if you put them in there. In other words, if you got a pH of 5.5, you can feed that thing all you want, and it's not going to take it up. It just will not take up the nutrients. And by the way, I have not found, I have seen people that thought they had found, I don't believe them, how much you would need to add to raise it up, say 2 or 3 points. And so what you do, you test this before the growing season, and then if it's low, you add a little, and then test it again. It takes 2 or 3 weeks for it to take effect. I'm getting old. Bed's built, soil prepared, and so on. So now what are we going to do? We're going to plant them. So we got a good place to plant them. The best that can be determined. Don't plant. Now you don't have to worry much about this here. Y'all have a freeze this year?
Yeah, great freeze.
See, you may have some problems, but there are problems you don't have. Fortuniana rootstock, generally doesn't have a taproot. The bulk of the roots, now this is important, 90% of it will grow where? 6 to 8 inches. In fact, I can go out in my garden now because I haven't replenished my beds as much as I need to. I can see some of the roots. Now, what does that mean? We'll talk some more about that. Therefore, cultivation, you don't want to put a rototiller in your rose bed. Because theoretically, these roots, and I may have this in here somewhere, and I don't believe this. I've heard people say they grow to as much as 10 and 12 feet. Now that would be from a diameter. I dug one up the other day that had a root about 4 feet long. My beds may be restricted how big they can do. Well, there I go. Sufficient spacing becomes very important. I made a mistake. Oh, one time, Paula always reminds me, and it's been a long time since I made a mistake, but I made a mistake and built a new Fortuniana rose bed, and I planted them 2 feet apart on the advice of a consulting Rosarian. Very good friend, helped us a lot over the years, not only in growing roses, but exhibiting roses. Big mistake. Don't plant them any closer than 3 feet. And each, this is another, you know how many things you learn by making mistakes? Plant them in rows where you have access to each row. I planted a bed one time, it was 5 rows up. You couldn't no more get in there and do anything that no longer exists. So you want them at worst 2 rows of bushes at a time. Most Fortunianas from small sources are grown to 1, 2, or maybe 3 gallon pots. My main source, I don't mind doing a little advertising, is Jim Mills over in Buckatuna, Tennessee. Mississippi. And he's very cordial and cooperative and grows good bushes. Our first introduction was a guy down in Belle Chase, Louisiana. How many know who I was talking about?
Oh, yeah.
Johnny Becknell. He and I never got along from this perspective. I never could agree with him on some things about growing roses. I'd say, Johnny, my roses are dying. He says, you're watering them too much. I said, Johnny, I live on the side of a hill. I don't live where I can go out and stick a shovel in the ground and take 2 shovel loads and I got water enough, which is what he had there in Belcher. But Johnny was a dear, dear, dear friend. And we lost a great Rosarian when we lost him. Like I say, he and I would fuss at each other, but it was a very, very friendly fussing, and I miss him very much. By the way, did he bud or graft? He budded, didn't he?
He budded.
Yeah, okay. Budded roses on Fortuniana will produce you a rose bush quicker than grafted. No, backwards. I got it backwards. Okay. But you could, I actually bought bushes from him and won a queen off of it. I planted it in the spring and won a queen off of white success in the fall. That's unusual. There's one of the, I guess, 1 gallon roses. Now what? Dig a hole. Now that's good. 18 to 24 inches wide diameter. Remember, there I go. Don't plant a $25 bush and 50-cent hole. Gauge the depth by sitting your pot in there. Okay. I dig my hole. I take my pot and I set it in there. And I don't do what generally they tell you with Fortuniana. When you buy a Fortuniana rootstock, typically speaking, it will have about 6 inches from the plant going up to the bud union, okay? And they say, you know, you want to plant this thing so you got at least that much sticking up. I have learned to stick mine down in the ground more. If you lived in a place like Missouri, where Larry Meyer at St. Louis or Bob House living in out of Springfield, Missouri did, they actually planted them down like you would just any old rootstock because it gets so cold there.
You're saying you go up higher with the soil toward the bud union?
Yes, I wouldn't let that bud union stick up over 2 to 3 inches at the moment. Yep. And you may, and one of the reasons they tell you that is because that rootstock will begin to grow out, but all you got to do is break it off. It's no big deal to do that. There you go, I got it right there. You got to account, of course, for a little settling. There I am with my little tiller. See what my soil looks like? And I'm digging a hole. That is me, it's not my gardener. And there I'm setting it in, gauging it. And by the way, when we planted, we put one thing in there, about 1/4 cup of triple superphosphate in the bottom of the hole. Some people prefer Osmocote. Beck don't prefer Osmocote, and I think when he puts them in, I know he does, Jim also uses Osmocote. And of course you're moving the pot, keep as much dirt as possible on it. And you know, sometimes it just don't work. What happens? The dirt has not been in the pot long enough, and the dirt just falls off. No big deal. Put it in there. There I am putting the superphosphate. It was obviously cold there. That's my wife. No. And by the way,
Yeah, you got pearls
on her correcting a while ago, let me tell you, before she ever met me, or right after she ever met, she would have never corrected Donald or made a comment about I'm not usually allowed to say the word. What is it? No, the spray. What spray did you tell him not to use? No, orthe. That is just a curse word to her. So Donald, I'll apologize for her. That's just, and she wasn't that way before she met me. So anyway, plenty covered up soil, you know how to plant them. Cause of the shallow root system, you must, this is an absolute must, you stake the bush. Now, I hear it again here, I've learned something. I've got stakes that go anywhere from 4 feet to 8 feet. Okay. I had some Velcro wrap. How many of you have seen that stuff? That you could wrap around and hold the bush next to the stake. Okay? Well, I thought if I really want to hold it where I want it, I'll pull it tight. When I pulled it tight, what happened after a period of time? The cane died. Okay? So then I said, well, I'll put it on there loose so it can move back and forth. I did that, and I still had some cane dies. Some canes die. So I have started, what I try to do is find a fork in the bush that'll hold, when you put the stake down, that'll hold the plant where you want it without putting anything on it. And yes, you may have to restake it, but that's no big deal. But you must stake them, or they're going to fall over. I can tell you right now. Some people use rebar. I have found these green stakes that have the plastic cover on them. You can generally get them either at Lowe's or at Home Depot. By the way, I'll tell you another one here in a minute if I don't forget it. To hold my roses up. They're a little more expensive, but they're pretty. Now, numbers of years ago, when Paula first started into into the rose business, and I really wasn't into it because I was doing a lot of speaking, actually nationwide in mathematics, and so I just did the heavy work. But I would come home, and I'm gonna tell you, I looked out there, there'd be steak, but I had pantyhose growing all over my room. Somehow, and they make a wonderful thing to tie with. But that just does not appeal to me. That's not where pantyhose ought to be. So I said, we're quitting this business. I don't care what. Okay. Moving on. I don't know where. Oh, there we go. I didn't even know I had that in there. And there's about the strips. Whatever you use, don't tie it up tight. The cane to the pole. And water it generously. Now, we're gonna, and what about water? Well, I think I'm doing all right. I think
Wait,
I'm
what
gonna
do
get
you do
through.
with Velcro? What do you,
Huh?
what do you do with Velcro?
Oh, that's what there's a little green half-inch strip. You can buy it at a nursery, you can buy it at Lowe's or at Home Depot.
Yeah.
That one side of it's Velcro, and you can cut it off in any length you want it, and you wrap it around there, it's Velcro. And it'll hold the bush to the stake. What about water? Y'all have to water a lot down here?
Oh, yeah.
Huh? Okay. I've heard all kinds of rules. The very best rule I know comes from June Mills, and here's what it is. How do you know you need to water? You stick your finger in the ground. If it's not wet, if it's dark, dry, it's time to do what? Water. Okay? So, you got to water it. You gotta have water to roses. But watering Fortuniana doesn't differ much except because the shallowness of the root system. And you got the heat coming down. You got that here, I know. You got the heat coming down, so what's gonna happen? The bed is gonna dry out quicker on top. And therefore, that's where your growing is, 6 to 8 inches. And so you need to do what? Water. Doesn't differ much, but you need to do water. A lot of it depends on the soil. Now, where do you water? Some people will water right around the bush. You ought to water at least out around the, what do we call that? The drip line. Okay. So that you get, and like I say, occasionally, I literally flood my beds. And when I do that, it won't take, if I'm flooding the bed, I get 10 feet away from where I started up there, that over there will already be all soaked in. It doesn't stand there and hold. That's the reason what you're planting your roses in is so important. If you have time, I strongly recommend hand watering. People say, oh, I can't do that. Well, I still do it. I tried all kinds of systems. I was never convinced that the roses, I tried these soaker hoses, and I'm going to tell you, you put those in the ground or even on top. Some roses get some water, some don't. When I water that thing by hand, and some of you may not have time to do that. I got time if I can get up enough energy to go out there and water. And there I talk about flooding. There I am watering. Planted, watered, now grow, we hope. What about fertilizer? Just like Popeye needed his spinach, roses need their what? Food. I borrowed that from my wife. Fertilizer. Don't fertilize a new bush until it's doesn't bloom one time. That's not good. Has bloomed one time. Since the Fortuniana grows out, when I spread my fertilizer, I don't pile it up right around the bush. I don't even just put it around the drip line. I spread it across the bed so that everything will get. I kind of broadcast it, I think is the word. It's okay to apply liquid fertilizer around the drip line. Now, we do that. Extremely important to make sure the road beds are not dry when you put on fertilizer. You don't want to fertilize when the beds are dry, and you don't want to do else when the beds are dry. One of the biggest things in rose care. You don't want to spray when things are dry. This is us in our liquid. What is that? Liquid feeding. Oh, it's hard to see. I got 2 60-gallon drums, and I fill them up. These little buckets here, what I pour into the drums, and there are my drums. That too is me, whether y'all recognize that handsome guy or not. And this is my beautiful bride of 58 years almost. And this was before, this is what I used to protect the blooms during show season, okay? Interestingly enough, y'all talk about thrips, and we sometimes have thrips. Our biggest nemesis, I guess, during rose season is the cucumber beetles. You know, those beautiful green ladybugs? They will infest you overnight. But I have learned something. They, nor virtually any other bug, will come up under that bottle when you've got it over a bloom. Now, I don't know why. I just know what the situation is. Important to water well ain't all fertilizers. What's going to happen when you water? You leach nutrients. And so the more you water, the more you're going to have to do what? Fertilize. Since more water may be necessary for Fortuniana bushes, they may need more what? More fertilizing. Almost all fertilizers, both chemical and organic, tend to lower the pH. Lower the pH when you feed or make the soil more acidic. Therefore, continue to do what? Monitor the what? pH. Some things remain the same. Yes, our biggest nemesis is black spot. It is horrendous in our part of the country. We do have mildew, aphids, spider mites, thrips, cucumber beetles, among other things, but our big nemesis is black spot. Can you cure black spot? No. All you can do is what? Prevent it. Okay. Fortuniana is no different. Now we're planting water. What about pruning? Remember, whatever you plant or try, the Lord is in control of your spring bloom where we live. We cannot make a bush bloom when we want it to. In the fall, we can. We try to have our bushes all pruned, though, no later than March 15th. And this is an effort to have roses for any spring show. We got one spring show this year, May the 20th, I think, or 22nd or something in Tulsa. You must determine whatever your date is here. I don't know, when do you prune if you want to?
We have a show day after tomorrow.
I know. All right. Most general rules apply. Now, I found one that I was taught. It's the rule of pruning back of Fortuniana. It says don't cut back more than a third. I'm going to tell you, I got some bushes, if I didn't prune back more than a third, by now Jack and the Beanstalk could climb up there to meet the giant. Because let's say a bush got to be 8 foot tall, just 8 foot. If you cut it a third back, let's make it easy. If it's 9 feet tall, and you cut it a third back, how tall would it still be? Still be what, 6 feet? I got several varieties that will grow a cane. What's the big one, honey, down there that never gets shown?
Magnificent.
Magnificent. Anybody grow that? It will grow a new cane, I would say, 3 feet long in a period of no more than 2 weeks. And it's got petals galore. not where the flip was showing. First year plants should not be severely pruned. Each time we prune, I hear the words of a great Fortuniana rose propagator, Jimmy Beck. New growth. I want to tell you, this is on any kind of pruning. New growth on a bush is never going to be larger than what you cut it off of. So why just cut a little bit off of a twig that's not but 1/8 of an inch around? You cut the whole twig off. It's just not going to come back any larger. During the growing season, compared to deadhead, I hate it. This is the worst thing I hate, or the most hated thing in growing roses is deadhead. Paula won't do it, and so if it gets done, I have to do it. Instead of follow the rule of cutting back to where? The first 5 leaflet. I may cut back until it's pencil size at least. Remember the Beckner rule. While I'm at it, I must say, this is the most dreaded task in the garden. Unlike the spring first bloom cycle, the other can be predicted. Generally, we will attend shows throughout August. This year, we will be going to our show, to Houston, and then to Fort Smith. And so we got 3 shows in 3 weeks. Generally, we'll attend these, and we prune from there. There's what my garden looks like in the winter. I ain't gonna get through this program.
Well, if you go 2 minutes, you might.
Once the date's determined, then we decide and remember all these things. The fall pruning, that's what we've been talking about. Young Fortuniana bush can be sensitive to severe cold. Now, it's not as bad, and y'all don't have to worry about this anymore. So I want to kind of go through this fast. We did. One year I lost a bunch of first year bushes because I didn't protect them. I think after the first year they're just as strong as anything else. But I build these rings about them. There's what they look like. This here, if I got first year Fortuniana bushes, I do this. And that stuff I put in that basket, which is a 3/4 inch mesh, is the same thing I put in the bed, so that when I open the basket, I'm simply replenishing the bed. Same thing here, I may hill up around the bud unions, and then in the spring, this is the most exciting thing. Well, like I told you, most dreaded, the most exciting thing is when you pull that back, and boom, there's a new what?
Basil.
Starts with a B, basil. And that is so exciting to see that new growth. After all this, we actually wait for the first bloom cycle in spring. Typical bloom cycle, Adlong garden, might sometimes, I gotta get a better picture, look kind of like this. That's what our garden will look like. And you can see those 8-foot poles and the blooms sticking up toward the top level. And so, you can cut a bouquet that might look something like this. This checker bouquet I did a number of years ago. Had 30 roses in it. And I took it up to a place where we go fishing. And a guy, I think he made his wife mad or something. He come in and offered the guy $50 for it. One night he wouldn't take it to his wife. And I think he was guilty of it. One main source, or our main source, is Jim and Daisy Mills, Canyon Roses in Buckatuna. And there is their email address, info at K&D CanyonRoses.com. There's his phone number. And they are wonderful people. Much of the material in this presentation was due to an article that Jim wrote. You can go on the internet and find it. And a lady in our society who provided some of the pictures that I need to really update some of those. I've done this program for a number of years. In conclusion, let me say I have a guardian protecting my garden at all times. Let me introduce you to El Jefe, boss. And there he is. And thank y'all very much for having called.
You have questions?
Any questions? Hey, look at the time.
Look at it. I'm proud of you.
Any questions? Yes.
Your spray program, especially for black spot mildew.
All right, honey.
What do we do in our spray program?
Black program mildew, black
I
spot mildew.
use, every time I spray, except during show season, I use pentathlon. And I alternate Banner Max and Compass with the pentathlon.
Okay, and mildew.
And we spray about every 10 to 14 days. We don't go beyond 14 days.
But she wants to know about mildew.
Mildew, your Banner Max is good for that.
Paul, is it okay to put the pentathlon in with compass?
Yes.
I mix those together, yes.
Okay.
In fact, I can mix the Avid and the Conserve and all that together. And,
The one thing we don't mix is
Alliette in the
Alliette.
spring.
We got where we generally spray with Alliette
The first spray.
first spray. You don't have anything. When I prune, I pull all the foliage off too. When I spring prune. Yeah. I mean, I pull every leaf off.
I do have a question.
All right.
I got some older, roses on Fortuniana that I got, from Jim Mills.
Uh-huh.
And, the buddings got quite large,
Yes.
They'll get like this.
but here, some of the ones that are like 10, 12 years old are starting to rot out in the center. Is that just?
That
native
does
decline?
happen.
Hey,
That does
it's the
happen.
same-
As long as you have good growth, the bush is doing good, fine, but that bush starts declining, you need to replace it.
Basically, it's the same problem I have. It's getting up. One of those little essences I've got that is absolutely still a beautiful bush. It has done just what you're talking, and it basically split, and it's falling over just like this. But it's still producing beautiful growth. But that's just old age.
But
Yeah.
I have a conigum that's 19 years old on Fortuniana, and it's rotted in the middle, and it's just growing like crazy.
But that's not
As long as the bush is doing okay.
As long as it's doing okay, I wouldn't do a thing to it.
I didn't get the chemical that you do not mix in with the others, and I'd like to know what that is. What is that?
Alliette,
Can you
it's
spell
not
that?
one we use regularly, we wouldn't use it but once a year, and it's to prevent
Downy mildew,
downy mildew. Now,
which we don't have,
we don't have,
but
you don't want it.
there's a
And if
propensity
you're trying to
for
price
it.
it, you're really not gonna want it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you don't want the
Would you-
downy mildew.
Would you spell that for me? Would you spell?
DOWNY,
No, the chemical.
They say
ALLIETTE,
In our
I
podcast,
believe.
the weather's cool.
Alliette.
I mean, hot.
We get that from rosamania.com.
Okay.
And
I
it's
wouldn't dig a bush up.
expensive, so you want to share it with your friends.
Thank y'all.
Thank you.